Hi, I'm Nikki. I wanted to just pop on and say hello, this is me, before I started my next video. I have been bullet journaling for 4 years. I started in 2017, so yeah, this will actually be my 5th year bullet journaling, and I usually share my tips and spread ideas over on Instagram, but I've set a challenge with myself to post 1 video per month on my YouTube channel, so that's what I'm doing right now. I have already posted my January video. If you'd like to go back and watch that, it is in the bit of videos on my YouTube channel. I am not good at this. Anyway, I'm about to set up my February spread. I really hope you like it. It's inspired by one of my favourite things. Yeah, let's go. Alright, so we're on to February now, and I'm sketching out my cover page with my stubby little Blackwing Pearl pencil. I've had this pencil for years and I love it. I'm going to use my Sakura graphic 1mm marker to outline my drawing. I really like using these for outlining things because the ink is waterproof, and it means that if I put colour on top, it won't bleed when I colour next to the black lines. So that's a really good reason to use these if you're going to be using any other coloured pens alongside them. And I'm just going in with a thinner Micron for these little details. I wonder if you can guess what this is at the moment. So when I was researching theme ideas for February, there was obviously all of the Valentine's Day related ones, but I wanted to do something a little bit more inventive. And I discovered that the 5th of February is actually World Nutella Day, and I love Nutella. This video isn't sponsored by Nutella, but if they wanted to sponsor me, I would not be unhappy about that at all, because it is one of my favourite things ever. I love having pancakes, and Nutella is my favourite pancake topping with a bit of banana. Can't beat it. So with that in mind, I decided to base my whole February theme around Nutella, and more specifically its packaging. I really love how iconic it is, the typography that uses black for the first letter and then red for all the others, and I'm going to use that theme throughout the whole of my monthly setups. I mentioned in my last video for January that I want to really focus on hand lettering, so I'm going to try and make sure that most of my spreads are more type than drawing focused over the next year. So this is done for my cover page. Just want to remind myself of what my monthly overview looked like in January, because I really did enjoy using that setup over the last few weeks. I'll often do that if I like one setup, is just copy the layout but maybe change up the type or the header just to mix it up a little bit for the month ahead. Just plotting this out with the pencil, and I'm going to use my chocolate coloured mild liner brush pen, the thin end, just to outline these sections. Sometimes I use this little trick of bending the page just to copy layouts as well. It's quite useful instead of going back and counting everything. I feel like the illustration of the jar is missing something a bit. It looks a bit flat, so I'm going to go in with the chunky side of my mild liner brush pen in grey and give it a nice thick shadow. And to tie this theme together, I'm going to use the lettering style that is featured on the front of the jar. So a black letter to start and then red for the rest of the word. And I did think about copying the typeface exactly, but I'm quite happy with just like this neat lowercase lettering. It's not exactly the same, but it's cute and it looks good enough to do the job.
just going down with my days of the week opposite the days of the month. And I'm giving myself these chocolate coloured bands to represent the weekends. February's quite a short month and I use a B5 journal, so I've got a little bit of space at the bottom of this section. So I'm going to add a bit for notes using the same text style, and I'll go in with a mild liner to give me some little lines to write along, as if it's like lined notepaper. I did quite well with my trackers last month, so I'm going to add these in again. I don't think I remembered to track every time I did the things in my trackers, but I think it did help to keep an eye on how I was getting on, so that was quite good. So I'm just going to outline these in that light brown mild liner again, just using the same 3 colours for this whole spread really, 4 colours I should say. And that thin end just to add some titles to my trackers. I'm going to add another section to this goals column. I'm going to add a section for fun so that I can plot out some fun activities for February as well. I am going to be setting up my monthly cover page, my month overview, and the first 2 weeks of February's weekly spreads today. So that means I'll have to catch up on my last 2 weeks of weeklies later. But I'm going to do them in this style, so I just wanted to give you an example of what they'll look like and how they'll work with my cover page and the monthly preview page as well. Before we get to that though, I'm just going to add this little header to the top of my month overview using tiny little jar illustrations, kind of like the cover page, but really small, and I'm going to put some different words on them also. So this brown felt tip is a Crayola Supertip, and it's one of the only things that I'm using today that I don't actually have for sale in Nikki's supply store. I wanted to use the mild liner, but you can see from the weekend and notes sections it's a little bit light for the colour of Nutella, so I went with this like darker, more chocolatey hazelnut colour instead. Adding some wee drop shadows to match the big one, and I think we are all good. I mean, how cute are they? I'm just going to take a peek back at my January weekly layout because I did really enjoy the amount of space that I had for daily tasks in that one. So I'm just going to copy it again, using this month's style of text. I feel like it can take a little while to find a layout that works for you, but if you're anything like me, you'll find a layout that you love and just use it all the time, hardly ever deviate from that. Designing new layouts from scratch does take a little while, so it's a good idea if you don't have a lot of time for bullet journaling to just stick to a layout that you know works really well for you and just mix up the colours and texts or illustrations every month rather than starting from scratch. So I obviously couldn't create a whole spread without making a mistake. I do it every single month. And this time I wrote the wrong letter for the first day of February. The 1st of February this year is actually a Tuesday, so I'm going to try and cover this up using a little bit of dot grid paper that I've trimmed from another Archer and Olive dot grid journal. So it's the same style of paper. I've cut it so it's just big enough to cover the M, and I'm going to line up the dots so it matches, and hopefully it's going to be pretty much invisible. If you want some more tips on correcting mistakes, Joy wrote a brilliant blog post over on the Nikki Supply Store blog with lots of different ways to correct mistakes, including this paper patching technique and loads of others. I'll pop a link to that in the description below. I'll speed this up a little bit more now just so that we can whiz through the next few pages because they're both going to be exactly the same. So these are the pens that I've used for this month's spread. I'll make sure that I link to everything in the description below. I am just going to finish off by adding these little grey drop shadows with the Zebra Mild Liner brush pen. And then all I have to do is add my dates. And for those, I'm going to use the thick end of the brown Zebra Mild Liner brush pen. And I'm going to go in with my number 10 white jelly roll to add the dates. And I find that this really is the best for writing on dark surfaces. You get a nice opaque white line with the number 10. Okay, so let's do a wee flip through. I really love how this turned out. I am usually more inclined to create brightly coloured themes. I don't think I've ever created a theme that was mostly brown before, but when brown is Nutella, I feel like that is okay. I knew that it would be really hard to recreate the typeface exactly, so I decided not to hold myself to that too much and just embrace this sort of handwritten, a little bit wonky in places, lowercase type. Alright, so all finished for February. If you've got any theme ideas or spreads that you would like me to try out in March or in the months ahead, pop them in the comments. I would love to read them. Thanks again for watching, folks. I will see you next time.